Good afternoon to you. I'm Fox 26 meteorologist Ramisha Shade. It's that time of the afternoon when I'm here to update you on what's happening in the tropics. As I mentioned yesterday, we've been fortunate so far here across southeast Texas. A very quiet hurricane season for us so far. No tropical storms, no hurricanes have come our way. Let's hope that it remains that way for the rest of the season. We've still got to get through a few more months though, so of course I'm here to update you on what's happening. Nothing headed our way for now, but we are still in what is usually considered that very busy, potentially super active period of hurricane season. So the actual peak was right around September 10th, and we are still only about a week after that. So we still have the threat for some of these tropical cyclones, tropical storms, hurricanes to develop out there in the Atlantic basin. So we're still closely monitoring the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean Sea, and of course the Atlantic Ocean for these tropical systems that could head our way and pose a big threat. We've still got the rest of September. Of course, we've got all of October, and then the chances are much lower throughout the month of November, but they're not zero. So we're going to be monitoring things very close. But for now, it looks like we will remain free of tropical systems, at least for the next week. But after that, we'll have to monitor it because those water temps out there are still pretty warm. We're free of any systems heading our way at least. But we do still have a couple of areas we're monitoring out there. Of most concern right now would be our hurricane. This is Hurricane Nigel, still out in the central Atlantic. And you'll notice a big difference between yesterday and today. It now has a very huge eye in the middle. You could see that big circle, that eye wall, and that eye in the middle of this hurricane. It has become better organized. It is healthier. It is looking more symmetrical, and it is getting stronger. It is now a Category 2 hurricane just to the east of Bermuda. It is still pretty far from the U.S., and I don't think it's ever going to get anywhere close to the U.S., which is great news. Here's the latest with the coordinates for Nigel and also the hurricane track and strength. This is the latest 4 p.m. advisory, and you can see that it is moving to the north-northwest around 14 miles per hour. But the one main thing to note, it is stronger. It is now a Category 2 hurricane with maximum sustained winds around 100 miles per hour, and that pressure has been falling now down to 974 millibars. So usually when you have the pressure falling, that indicates a strengthening system. So when the pressure falls, that usually corresponds to those wind speeds picking up, and that's exactly what we have. So we do have a very powerful hurricane out there. It is going to push to the east of Bermuda, so I don't expect any major issues for folks in Bermuda. Maybe some big surf, some strong rip currents, but I don't think they'll be dealing with anything any worse than that. But of course that can still be dangerous, so they'll have to watch out for that. But it looks like overall Nigel should remain pretty far to the east, and then it will eventually start to race off to the northeast. So here's the track for Hurricane Nigel. It should be a Category 2 hurricane right around 1 p.m. Wednesday afternoon with winds around 105 miles per hour. Now the good news is that the official National Hurricane Center forecast did have Nigel strengthening to a major Category 3 hurricane just a few days ago, so it's not expected to become that strong, and it's actually expected to lose those tropical characteristics by Friday and Saturday as it moves into that colder water. But by Thursday, it should still be a Category 1 hurricane, a little bit weaker with winds around 80 miles per hour. Then it will start to become post-tropical as it moves into those cooler waters in the northern Atlantic. So by this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it is way up there in the North Atlantic, and it will still have some strong gusty wind in it, but it will be weakening and it will be losing those tropical characteristics. But check out where it is by the end of the weekend, not far from Iceland, but it is still surviving as a post-tropical cyclone. So maybe some heavy rain and strong winds for portions of Iceland, believe it or not. So that is pretty far north. Now let's head back down south and talk about a few other systems that could develop out there. There's Category 2 Hurricane Nigel just sitting in the central Atlantic, but we also have two other areas that we're monitoring for possible development. The first area could be a big concern to the U.S. because this development area is right off of the east coast of Florida. Now, we're not expecting this to blow up and become a major tropical storm or hurricane. We're actually expecting a non-tropical area of low pressure to kind of develop along a frontal boundary, and it likely won't become a tropical storm or hurricane, but it could become potentially subtropical. That means it would have some tropical characteristics, but not be a full-fledged tropical system. Regardless, it will have the threat to bring some stronger winds, some rip currents, some heavy rain to portions of the Carolinas and also Florida. So that will be a concern as we go through the rest of this week. So the chance for this happening over the next 48 hours, 0. But the chance of it happening over the next 7 days, about a 30% chance. So this non-tropical area of low pressure is expected to drift north if it develops, and that could be a concern if you have some weekend plans around the Carolinas this weekend, early next week. That could be a concern too. Or if you have family and friends there, they may be dealing with some heavy downpours and some gusty wind with that potential system. Now, we do have a high chance for development from this tropical wave. Look at that. It is already looking fairly healthy as it starts to roll off of the west coast of Africa. It's expected to move into this area shaded red here, and this is going to be our potential tropical wave. Not expecting it to do much over the next 48 hours, but over the next 7 days, a high 70% shot for development as it pushes off to the west northwest. And notice this one is developing a little bit farther to the south, so it still may not make it into the Caribbean or the Gulf, but it could definitely have some impacts several days out to portions of the U.S. East Coast. So we'll have to watch it closely. Now let's head to our European model, and this is our European model futurecast showing Hurricane Nigel. So this is where it is expected to be tonight around 10 p.m. still east of Bermuda, but I want to show you what this model is projecting. It's going to take that northward turn for Wednesday, and then it's going to start racing off to the north and east, getting closer to Iceland by this weekend and early next week. So the good news is that we don't have to worry much about Nigel because it is going to be pushing away from Bermuda and away from the U.S. But we are concerned about that potential tropical wave coming off of the west coast of Africa because that one has a higher shot to make it over to the U.S. East Coast. And this model, our European model, around 4 p.m. Monday, showing that it is going to be in the central Atlantic, and it will be getting closer by the middle of next week, possibly to some of those Caribbean islands, the Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, and also over towards the Turks and Caicos. So we'll have to watch this one closely. This likely will become a named storm over the next 2 to 7 days, and that name would be Ophelia. So that is likely going to be our next tropical storm or hurricane, and we'll be adding another one to this list. We've already had quite a few so far this year, 15 named storms, 6 hurricanes, and 3 major hurricanes. So we're already right around our average hurricane season, but we've still got over 2 months to go in this hurricane season. So normally we'd have about 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes, and 3 major hurricanes in our average hurricane season, that average taken from 1991 through 2020. Like I mentioned though at the beginning, we've still got to get through the rest of this month. We've got all of October and all of November. So this could go down as a very active above normal season, which it likely will, because we still got the chance for more of these systems to form. Fortunately for now, things are still quiet in the Gulf of Mexico, not much happening in the Caribbean Sea that we're monitoring, at least for potential tropical cyclone development. So we are looking good here, but we will have to watch that system right off of the east coast of Florida, already producing some scattered showers and storms there, and it could try to develop some tropical or subtropical characteristics as we go into the next several days. We've still got some very warm waters out there in the Gulf of Mexico, water temps well into the 80s, even the low 90s. So even though we don't have any tropical cyclones out there now, we're still going to have to watch things closely over the next several weeks, because if we get development, we still have that very warm water that would act as fuel for a potential tropical system. It's the same story for the Caribbean and for much of the Atlantic. Very warm water out there will mean that the potential for these tropical storms and hurricanes to develop will stick around. Normally for us, if we don't get anything by the middle of October, our chances are extremely low. But if that water remains that warm, we could still have to watch it really closely even after the middle of October. We've already been through the first few columns of names. You'll see that we've gone from Arlene at the beginning of the season all the way down to Hurricane Nigel that we have out there in the central Atlantic right now. So if we do get that tropical wave that's coming off the west coast of Africa to develop, the next name on the list, the beginning of the third and final column of names, would be Ophelia. And then we'd have Philippe, Rena, Sean, Tammy, Vince, and Whitney. Hopefully we won't get through the rest of those names, but the way things have been going, we just might. It's been a quiet season for us, but active in many other places. So make sure to keep it here. We'll keep updating you daily every afternoon on what's happening out there in the tropics. Also make sure to head to the App Store if you haven't already and grab our Fox 26 weather app. All of the tropical weather updates that you want and or need. We've got our forecast cones, our follow me feature, and any tropical alerts, tropical storm, hurricane watches and warnings can be found there as well. Of course, you know, you can always get your local weather there. Anytime we have any alerts locally, showers, storms popping up on the radar, and the rare occurrence that we get some snowfall. Doesn't happen often, but ever so often, a little snow and ice may pop up on the radar in the wintertime. Of course, you can track that as well. Of course, no snow coming anytime soon. We're still in the 90s out there. Unfortunately, no tropical activity heading towards southeast Texas. Well, that wraps up your tropical update for this afternoon. I'm Fox 26 meteorologist Ramisha Shade. Enjoy the rest of your day.